You've been lied to. Car companies, mechanics, and even your neighbor down the street all want you to believe cars are disposable, that once you hit 100,000 miles, it's time to trade it in. But here's the truth. With the right habits, your car can last 3, 4, even 7 times longer. Mine hit 700,000 miles, and today, I'll show you the 17 habits I cut out that made it possible. Stick around to the end, because one of these tips might be the difference between scrapping your car early or doubling its lifespan. Habit 1. Skipping or delaying oil changes. Oil is the single most important fluid in your car. It lubricates, cools, and cleans the engine. Skip an oil change, and contaminants like soot, fuel residue, and microscopic metal shavings build up. Over time, the oil breaks down, loses viscosity, and stops protecting moving parts. That's when engines start eating themselves from the inside out. Too many people wait until 10,000 to 15,000 miles thinking it still runs fine. By then, damage is already happening. I stuck rigorously to a 7,500 mile interval, depending on conditions, and always swapped the filter. That discipline alone probably doubled my engine's lifespan. Habit 2. Using the wrong oil. Even if you change oil often, using the wrong viscosity or a cheap off-brand oil can destroy your engine. Cars today are engineered for specific tolerances. 5W20, 0W40, etc. And deviating can affect startup wear, fuel economy, and even emission systems. I once used a generic 10W40 in an engine designed for 5W30. Instantly, I noticed sluggish starts in winter and knocking under load. After switching back to the recommended synthetic oil, those issues vanished. Using oil that meets or exceeds the manufacturer's specs ensures the engine is properly lubricated at every temperature. It's a simple habit, but most people cut corners here and pay the price later. Habit 3. Ignoring the air filter. Engines are basically giant air pumps. Starve them of clean air and everything runs worse. A dirty filter chokes airflow, causes the fuel mixture to run rich, and leads to fouled plugs, carbon buildup, and reduced efficiency. Worse, when filters get too clogged, dirt particles sneak past, scoring cylinder walls. I made it a rule to inspect my filter every 10,000 to 15,000 miles and swap it as soon as it looked gray or clogged. In dusty conditions, I changed it even more often. That tiny $20 part protected my engine from a lifetime of grit and dust. Habit 4. Neglecting the fuel system. Fuel isn't always clean, and over hundreds of thousands of miles, injectors gum up. A clogged fuel filter can starve the pump, making it work harder until it fails. I replaced fuel filters at manufacturer intervals and occasionally ran fuel system cleaners. More importantly, I avoided running the tank bone dry, which drags debris into the pump and filter. At 250,000 miles, I had the injectors professionally cleaned. And the difference in idle smoothness and throttle response was night and day. Most people don't bother until something breaks, but proactive care keeps the combustion system sharp. Habit 5. Forgetting the cooling system. Engines generate tremendous heat, and cooling failures are catastrophic. Overheating warps heads, blows gaskets, and destroys oil. Flush coolant every 2 to 3 years, replaced hoses before they crack, and never ignored a radiator cap or thermostat. One time around 120,000 miles, a small hose started weeping coolant. A friend told me, just top it up. Instead, I replaced it the same week. That $25 hose prevented a potential $2,500 head gasket job. Cooling systems are often invisible until they fail, but treating them as consumables rather than permanent saved my engine multiple times. Habit 6. Ignoring the transmission. If the engine is the heart, the transmission is the nervous system. And yet, most people never change the fluid. Lifetime fluid is marketing, not engineering. Heat breaks down ATF just like oil. I swapped transmission fluid every 40,000 to 50,000 miles, replaced filters, and never abused the gearbox. No power braking, no towing overloads, no constant start-stop drag racing. My transmission lasted past 500,000 miles before showing signs of wear. Compare that to people I know who destroyed theirs at 120K before they thought fluid changes were unnecessary. Habit 7. Ignoring leaks. Many drivers see a few drops of oil or coolant on the driveway and shrug, that's the beginning of the end. A small leak means the system isn't sealed anymore, which accelerates wear. I inspected under my car monthly and fixed leaks immediately. A leaking crankshaft seal at $200K cost me $300 to replace. If I'd ignored it, it could have led to an oil starvation and catastrophic engine failure. Leaks aren't normal aging. They're warning shots, and they should be catered to immediately. Habit 8. Ignoring warning lights. A check engine light is like your body running a fever. It means something's wrong, even if you feel fine. Too many people drive for months with the light on. I bought an OBD scanner early on, which cost less than $50, and used it religiously. A faulty oxygen sensor I caught early saved my catalytic converter, which would have cost over $1,000. Small electronic issues compound into major mechanical ones when ignored. Treat every light seriously. Habit 9. Driving too hard, too soon. Engines need to warm up. Cold oil is thick and doesn't lubricate well. Revving the engine to redline before it reaches operating temperature is one of the most damaging habits. I always let my car idle for 30 to 60 seconds, then drive gently until the gauge hits normal. Likewise, I avoid lugging the engine, moving in too high a gear at too low RPM, which puts brutal strain on bearings. Gently early driving dramatically reduces wear. This is why taxi fleets that warm up and cruise at steady speeds often see 400,000 plus miles easily. Before we keep going, let me hit pause for just a second. If you made it this far, chances are you actually care about keeping your car running for the long haul. So here's the deal. Hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube this video is worth sharing, and it keeps me bringing you real, experience-based car advice. And drop a comment. What's the longest you've ever kept a car running? Habit 10. Overheating the engine. Heat is the enemy. Every degree above normal operating range shortens component life. Overheating breaks down oil, cooks gaskets, and warms aluminum. I never pushed my car if the temp gauge started to creep. Climbing mountains, I'd downshift instead of flooring it, spreading the load. In traffic jams on hot days, I turn off the AC when temps spiked. These little actions prevented major disasters. Most engines that suddenly die of head gasket failure actually suffered years of mild overheating abuse. Habit 11. Skipping ignition system maintenance. The ignition system is often overlooked, but it's central to engine health. Spark plugs, wires, and coils make sure fuel burns completely and efficiently. When plugs wear out or coils fail, combustion weakens, causing misfires. Every misfire sends raw fuel into the exhaust, which overheats and destroys the catalytic converter, a repair that can cost well over $1,000. I replaced plugs every 40,000 to 60,000 miles and changed failing coils before they caused damage. At 400,000 miles, I swapped all coils as preventative maintenance, and the engine kept running smoothly. Many drivers ignore ignition issues until the car shakes at idle or throws a code. By then, the damage is already done. Habit 12. Cheap parts. Buying the cheapest replacement parts might save you up front, but it's one of the fastest ways to kill a car early. Filters, belts, pumps, and sensors may look similar, but the materials and durability are worlds apart. At 150,000 miles, I installed a budget water pump that failed less than 2 years later, almost causing an overheating disaster. That close call taught me to stick with OEM parts or trusted aftermarket brands like NJK or Bosch. Over 700,000 miles, that commitment paid off in the form of fewer breakdowns, longer service life, and no catastrophic failures caused by bargain components. Spending slightly more on quality ensured I wasn't gambling with the life of the engine or transmission. Habit 13. Waiting until things break. Too many car owners wait for parts to fail before acting. Problem is that one failure often cascades into others. A serpentine belt might squeal for weeks, but when it snaps, it can take out the alternator and overheat the engine. A leaking shock may still work, but it stresses tires and suspension until they wear unevenly. I replaced parts as soon as I saw early signs, such as small cracks in the belt, soft hoses, or loose bushings. At 80,000 miles, I replaced a frayed serpentine belt for $50. Waiting until it snapped could have cost thousands. Proactive maintenance might feel like overkill, but it's a difference between a car dying early and one reaching 500,000 miles. Habit 14. Ignoring strange noises and smells. Cars rarely fail without warning. Grinding, whining, rattling, or unusual smells are signals we're trained to ignore. At 220,000 miles, I smelled faint coolant after a drive and traced it to a cracked radiator. Replacing it early prevented a roadside breakdown and a blown head gasket. Another time, a whining sound at low speeds revealed a failing power steering pump. Fixing it before it shed metal shavings saved the steering rack. Many drivers down these clues with the radio until it's too late. My habit was to treat every noise or smell as a diagnostic lead. Listening closely and acting quickly added hundreds of thousands of miles to my car's life. Habit 15. Neglecting rust protection. Rust silently destroys cars long before engines wear out. In northern climates, road salt corrodes frames, brake lines, and fuel tanks until they're unsafe. Rust is why many cars end up in junkyards despite running engines. I fought back by washing the undercarriage in winter, waxing the paint twice a year, and touching up chips as soon as I spotted them. I also used protective coatings on brake and fuel lines. At 500,000 miles, my frame was still solid while neighbors were scrapping similar models for corrosion holes. Rust prevention isn't glamorous and doesn't add horsepower, but without it, no car can live to 700,000 miles. It's the silent killer most people forget until it's too late. Habit 16. No maintenance record. Memory fades, but records don't. Many owners forget when belts, filters, or fluids were last changed, leading to missed intervals and overdue service. I kept a simple logbook, mileage, date, and what's done. This gave me consistency, which is the real secret behind long car life. It also helped me track part quality, spotting which brands lasted longer. At the mechanic, I never overpaid for unnecessary work because I could show exactly what had been done. When it came time to sell, a thick folder of records boosted value. But most importantly, it ensured my car never skipped critical maintenance. Over 700,000 miles, that discipline was important as the oil itself. Habit 17. Overloading and abusing the vehicle. Every car has limits: towing capacity, cargo ratings, and red lines. Ignoring them is one of the fastest ways to shorten lifespan. I avoided towing beyond spec, resisted stuffing the trunk with heavy loads, and treated the engine with respect. Abuse doesn't always show up immediately, but years of overload leave scars. I also minimized short trips that don't let the engine warm fully, since they cause condensation and sludge buildup. Long drives balanced that out and kept everything clean. A friend with the same model abused his, hauling too much weight, flooring it consistently, and his transmission died at 120,000 miles. Mine lasted 5 times longer. Respecting design limits is the simplest habit that made 700,000 miles possible. So that's how I took my car to 700,000 miles, by avoiding the habits that kill most cars early. Treat your vehicle right, stay consistent, and it'll reward you with years more life. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and share with someone who wants their car to last. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.